I, 27-year-old male, made some accidental good financial decisions years ago that today put me in a position where I can do mostly what I love, mess with all kinds of electronics, play video games a lot, etc. I am a huge nerd. I own a small electronics computer shop where I fix customers' devices, etc. I also sell general computer stuff and other small electronics. I live in the same building. I don't spend all my time in the shop. I have 2 workers who work in shifts, and I work when I feel like it or when they ask for help. I also replace them when they need a vacation or sick days. I have a sister, Jane, 34-year-old female, and she has 3 kids, Mary, 14-year-old female, Julia, 6-year-old female, and Jack, 4-year-old male. I am the only one who basically has unlimited free time to watch the younger kids. Mary doesn't need to be watched anymore, but she often hangs out in my shop anyway. I do it every time the kids are sick, or my sister is on a business trip for her work. After infection 19, kids are sent home for every tiny cough and sneeze. What happened? My grandmother had her 80th birthday, and everyone was invited. Relatives I don't remember ever seeing before were there. My sister and I were sitting close to each other, and suddenly one old lady, who was maybe my grandmother's cousin or something, started asking everyone what they do. I told her that I run a small business, and my sister out of nowhere said, "Yeah, by running a business, he means being very lazy and sleeping until noon. Sometimes he chills out in the store and plays video games or watches movies all day." While some of us had to work hard for our success, what she said is technically true. While she studied her whole life, I went to trade school and got lucky with a few business decisions. But I felt kind of hurt that she forgot that for her to get all that education, others had to watch the kids. So I told her, "Oh, don't forget that I'm also a full-time free babysitter, but I decided to quit and focus on being lazy." She did not say anything more and did not take me seriously. A week later, I got a phone call in the morning that Jack had thrown up several times at night. She said she would bring him to my place, and I said, "Don't you forget that I quit, as I am way too lazy to watch the kids." I ended the call, went back to bed, and when I woke up later, there were multiple messages from my sister telling me that I am a selfish jerk and that I act like I am the center of the world. I replied politely, saying, "Sorry you feel that way." Later, my mother called and told me that I put my sister in a really tough position, as she, Mom, can't take days off from the hospital on such short notice either, and Jane has nobody to watch the kids. Am I the jerk for not watching them? I am not hurt because of the truth. I know I am lazy. It hurt that she acts like watching her kids has been nothing. Names are changed. I still have a good relationship with my small relatives. I just don't babysit anymore. I don't even avoid my sister. Burner account for privacy. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot that I put my sister in a really tough position, as she, Mom, can't take days off from the hospital at such short notice either, and Jane has nobody to watch the kids. Should have thought about that before she decided to unleash what she really thinks of you. Not your problem. Comment 2. Not the idiot. She attempted to embarrass and shame you for something that she greatly benefits from. Very silly of her. She doesn't respect you at all, especially considering that you frequently look after multiple children for free. You did well, OP. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments on my last post. It's been a tense week, and I've got quite the update for you all. So, after the whole birthday party fiasco and the phone call with my sister Jane, things went from tense to outright explosive. I thought I had made my point clear, but apparently it was just the beginning of a family drama that would make soap operas look tame. First off, let me give you a bit of history about my sister and me. Jane has always been the overachiever in the family, top of her class, and now a high-powered executive. I, on the other hand, took a different path. I wasn't much for academics, but had a knack for electronics and gaming. Our paths diverged, but we remained close, or so I thought. Fast forward to this week, and the tension between us reached a boiling point. Jane showed up at my shop unannounced, kids in tow, looking like she was ready for battle. She stormed in, her face red with anger, and let me have it in front of my customers and employees. She accused me of being selfish and irresponsible, and in the heat of the moment, she even threatened to cut me off from the kids. Now, I love my niece and nephews, and the thought of not seeing them anymore hit me hard. But I stood my ground. I reminded Jane of all the times I'd been there for her, the countless days I'd watched the kids while she climbed the corporate ladder. I wasn't just the lazy brother, I was the reliable uncle who stepped up when needed. The confrontation was intense, and everyone in the shop was watching. It was like a scene straight out of a movie. Except this was my life, and I was feeling every bit of the drama. But here's where things took a turn. Mary, my 14-year-old niece, who's always been more mature than her years, stepped in. She had been quiet up until now, but she couldn't stand the sight of her mom and uncle at each other's throats. Mary reminded us of how we used to be, how we'd play video games together, and how I'd help her with her science projects. She told us that we were better than this, that we were family. Her words struck a chord, and that's when the unexpected happened. Jane broke down. She admitted that she was stressed out from work and that she had taken it out on me. She confessed that she didn't know how to balance her career with being a single mom, and she was sorry for lashing out. We talked, really talked, for the first time in what felt like forever. I learned about the pressures Jane was facing at work, and she learned about how I felt taken for granted. It was a moment of raw honesty that we both needed. And then came the compromise. Jane agreed to hire a part-time nanny to help with the kids when she was at work or on business trips. In return, I agreed to be the emergency contact, the one she could count on when all else failed. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a start, a way for both of us to get what we needed without sacrificing our relationship. The rest of the week has been a bit of a blur. Jane found a nanny, and I've had some time to focus on my shop and my hobbies. The kids still come by to visit, and I'm glad for it. Mary's been teaching me some new video game tricks, and Julia and Jack are as energetic as ever. But the biggest surprise came just yesterday. My mom, who had been quietly observing all this drama, pulled me aside. She told me she was proud of how I handled things with Jane, and that she had always admired my ability to follow my passions. It was a moment of validation I didn't know I needed. Mill tries to control my wedding, so I uninvite her, but she guilt-trips my fiancé into changing his mind. Oh boy, she didn't expect what happened next. I, 28-years-old female, met my fiancé, 28-years-old male, during college, and we have a great relationship. Last year, we got engaged, and we're planning the wedding for this fall. While he has an awesome dad and really sweet sisters, his mother is kind of a sore spot for him. She is separated from his dad, and from what I've heard and witnessed, the family doesn't get along much with her. If you met her, you'd understand why. She's super judgmental and rude, and barely has a nice word to say about her own kids, let alone me. Unfortunately, my fiancé, being her only son and the youngest child, is her blatant favorite. She really wants him to be mommy's boy, but he's not that way at all, and does a great job of handling her and keeping his distance, which honestly he prefers. Upon news of our engagement, she was super excited, very uncharacteristically. We then all realized that she basically wanted to frame the whole day around her. Think, everyone should be praising me for birthing this boy. He couldn't even get married without me. From there, the craziness really ramped up. She was coming along with him to tux fittings, trying to plan out the music, even our first dance, and getting angry at me for daring to choose a dress she didn't like. The rest of his family and I were actually beginning to toy with the idea of uninviting her based on this behavior. And as wrong as it kind of innately feels, this is a pretty exceptional case, and honestly, her actions were starting to make us dread our own wedding. A further incident a few days later, where she told my son she wanted to walk me down the aisle so she could have a moment with her son at the altar, made me, my husband, and my future in-laws snap. We very recently arranged for her to come over to our home, where myself and my husband sat her down in the peace and quiet and gently explained to her that we no longer wanted her to attend the wedding. She got really angry and immediately flew off the handle at me and not her son, as though I was the one who had influenced the rest of the family to uninvite her. My frustration at her boiled over, and without shouting, I stood up and told her that I wanted her to stop yelling, and that she had no right to speak to me as she was. When I realized she was about to blow up again, I cut her off with, "In case you don't know, I'm the one marrying your son, not you." She didn't say anything else, just snatched up her bag and left. She hasn't spoken to me since, but she's trying to get my son to change his mind. Believe me when I say he will not. She wants an apology from me, and while my husband and the rest of the family don't think I did anything wrong, I kind of wonder if my comment was unnecessary and whether it would have been better to stay the calm and collected party. I'm just so done with her, and I wanted to let her know exactly how I felt. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. You did things exactly correctly. If you didn't put your foot down now, you would have a lifetime of drama with her. This post should be saved stickied as an example of how to properly deal with a terrible mother-in-law. And your fiancé deserves a high five for having your back. Comment 2. She hasn't spoken to me since. What a lovely wedding gift. Why would you apologize to her? Besides the fact you didn't really do anything wrong, apologizing would only prolong the wedding invitation drama. Just let her not talk to you. And hopefully, eventually she'll go away. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. It's been a wild few days since then, and I've got quite the update for you all. So after we told my fiancé's mom she wasn't invited to the wedding, things went from bad to worse. She started a campaign to get back into our good graces, but not in the way you'd expect. Instead of apologizing, she doubled down. She sent my fiancé old photos of them together, trying to guilt him into changing his mind. She even went as far as to send a family heirloom to our house, a watch that belonged to my fiancé's late grandfather, with a note saying, "Remember who you are and where you come from." My fiancé, bless him, has been a rock through all of this. He's always been the kind of guy who stands up for what he believes in, even if it's tough. I remember when we first started dating in college, he was the one who'd stand up to the bullies when they picked on the underclassmen. That's just who he is, and it's one of the reasons I fell for him. But this situation with his mom was testing even his limits. He told me about how, growing up, his mom would always make everything about her. Like the time he won a science fair in middle school, and she bragged to everyone that it was her genes that made him so smart. Or the time she threw a fit at his sister's graduation because the focus wasn't on her. It's a pattern that's been repeating his whole life. 3 days ago, we thought we had a breakthrough. His mom called and asked to meet with us. We agreed, hoping she'd come to her senses. We met at a local coffee shop, and for a moment, she seemed genuinely remorseful. She even started crying, saying she just wanted to be part of her son's big day. My heart almost went out to her, but then she slipped up. She mentioned how she had already told all her friends she'd be the star of the wedding, and it clicked. She wasn't sorry for her actions. She was sorry she was missing out on the attention. My fiancé saw it too, and that was it for him. He told her that her behavior was unacceptable, and we left the coffee shop. Now, here's where things get really crazy. Yesterday, my fiancé's dad called us. He said his ex-wife had been spreading rumors that I was the one who had banned her from the wedding, that I was controlling and manipulating their son. My fiancé's dad knew it wasn't true, but some family members were starting to believe her. We had to act fast. We called a family meeting with his dad and sisters, and we laid everything out on the table. We explained how we made the decision together, and that it was about our happiness on our wedding day. His sisters were furious at the lies their mom was spreading. They knew their brother better than anyone, and they knew he wasn't easily swayed. The family meeting turned into a bit of an intervention. His dad and sisters shared stories of how his mom had tried to manipulate them over the years, and it was like a light bulb went off for my fiancé. He realized this wasn't just about the wedding. It was a pattern of behavior that had been going on his whole life. But here's the misunderstanding that happened. When we were leaving the family meeting, my fiancé's phone rang. It was his mom, and she was hysterical. She was saying that she had been in a car accident and needed him. Without a second thought, my fiancé rushed out the door, and I followed. We got to the scene, and there she was, standing by her car, which had a small scratch on the bumper. There was no accident. She had staged the whole thing to get his attention. My fiancé was furious, and in that moment, he told her that she was no longer his mother if she continued this behavior. Mom's engaged to a guy named George, and they want me to give a speech at their wedding, but I refuse. Oh boy, they're so mad. My mom is engaged to a guy called George, and they want their wedding to symbolize the creating of a new family unit with me. 15 years old, and Mom and George and his 3 kids, ages 8, 6, and 5. George's ex-wife dipped and has not seen her kids since the youngest was born. My dad died 4 years ago. Mom and George have been together for 3 years, and we have lived together for 7 months now. Mom, George, and George's kids are really happier, and my mom is happier than she ever was, something she has said. I don't think she and my dad were happily married when he died. Anyway, like I said, they want to celebrate the family unit they are creating, and want to talk about how great it is, how we're all so happy with it, and feel like we have become such a solid unit. My mom and George wrote this speech for me to give at the wedding in a few months, and they wanted me to read it. They said they took care of writing it because they could put words together better. I read the whole thing, and I couldn't imagine myself reading it. Some of the quotes from the speech: "I'm so happy our family is finally whole and legally recognized. I wouldn't change a thing about my life because it brought us all here. Our family is the best thing to happen to me. I cannot imagine life being any better than it is right now, standing here among the people I love most in the world. This is the start of the best chapter of our lives. I'm so excited to welcome my new dad and new siblings into the last name family." Those are just the ones I actually kept notes of. But generally, the tone of the speech is not how I feel. I would change all of this in a heartbeat for my dad back. This will never be my best chapter when he's not here, and I don't love George or his kids. I don't have strong feelings either way, but I'm also sad. The wedding and all the enthusiasm just remind me I don't have my dad to confide in anymore. My mom is happy, and I'm glad of that, and I would give a speech about that, but I know the second I say that, my mom would want us in family therapy. And I don't want to go with them. I don't want to hear that it's okay to embrace and be happy about a new dad and siblings after 15 years of being an only child. Instead, I told Mom I wasn't comfortable giving the speech they wrote, and I won't do it. She told me the speech is perfect and is a beautiful tribute to what is happening. She also told me how much it will mean to George's kids. I told her I still didn't feel comfortable giving it, and to just forget about me saying anything. My mom was upset, mad. George was asking why the hell I'd refused to do something that will make everyone so happy. They told me I'm acting like an elementary school kid instead of a teenager who is basically a young adult. They also have George's oldest tell me how excited she and her brothers are to hear my speech, and she told me she's excited to be my sister. Am I the idiot? Also, the speech is like 3 pages long. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Tell them you'll read the speech that they wrote by prefacing it with, "Mom and George wrote this speech for me to read to you today." If they don't want that, too bad, because that's what is going to happen if they insist that you do any type of speech. Let's face it, any speech that is read and not from the heart sounds so insincere and contrived anyway. It won't fool anyone, and the whole family will look ridiculous. Not the idiot. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Your mother and your stepfather-to-be are welcome to make any comments they like about their feelings about the new relationship. They are not allowed to put words in your mouth and ascribe feelings to you that you don't have. I would continue to refuse to give the speech, and if they continue to push, I would tell them I might not attend the wedding at all. Now, for the update. Hey Reddit. It's been a month since I posted about my mom's wedding and the speech situation. Things have escalated, and I'm back for an update because, honestly, I need to vent. So, after I refused to give the speech, my mom and George didn't drop it. They kept pushing, saying it was important for family unity. I tried to explain my feelings again, but it was like talking to a brick wall. They just couldn't understand why I wasn't over the moon about all this. Then, 2 weeks ago, things got really heated. George's oldest, let's call her Lily, overheard me telling my friend on the phone that I didn't feel like part of this new family. She got really upset and told George. That night, we had a family meeting where George basically told me I was being selfish and not thinking about Lily and her brother's feelings. My mom backed him up, saying I was ruining their chance at a happy family. I was so mad. I mean, I get that they're kids and they're excited, but it's not fair to put all this pressure on me. I lost my dad, and they act like I should just replace him with George and be happy about it. But here's the juicy part. Last week, my mom found an old letter my dad wrote her before he died. It was about how much he loved us and how he always wanted us to be happy, even if that meant moving on with someone else. My mom took it as a sign that my dad would have wanted me to accept George and give the speech. She showed me the letter, crying, saying it was a message from my dad. I didn't know what to say. It felt like she was using my dad's words against me. I told her that wasn't fair, and we ended up in a huge fight. She said I was being disrespectful to my dad's memory, and I just lost it. I told her she didn't get to tell me how to feel about my dad. Since then, it's been tense at home. George tries to talk to me about man stuff like he used to, but it just feels forced now. And Lily and her brothers have been giving me the cold shoulder because they think I don't want them around. But here's the kicker. Yesterday, I found out that George had been talking to a family therapist without telling me. He's been planning for us to start going after the wedding. When I confronted him, he said it was for the best and that I needed help dealing with my anger issues. I couldn't believe he went behind my back. I told him I didn't have anger issues, I was just grieving, in my own way. He said I wasn't the only one who lost someone, referring to his kids losing their mom when she left. That made me even angrier because it's not the same thing at all. Now, I'm stuck. The wedding is in a month, and I'm supposed to stand up there and pretend everything's perfect. My mom and George are acting like nothing's wrong, but I can tell they're worried I'll cause a scene. And to top it all off, I overheard George telling my mom that if I don't give the speech, it might be best if I didn't come to the wedding at all. That hurt. It's like I'm being erased from my own family. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.